Welcome to another AVID chat. David Harpo and Jack Arnold. Jack, good to see you as always.
Good to see you, Dave.
If you're joining us today, the last several of our AVID chats, we've kind of walked through the process and how AVID helps people kind of to get a big idea of where they want to be, a vision of their ideal life, where we start, creating these actionable steps to take so that you really can start making progress in a short period of time, as opposed to thinking about things for a long time and saying, I should, and actually doing it. And today we want to take that another step forward. So today's video is called Mastering Trade-offs to Elevate Your Financial Life. And here's what we mean by that. In life, as you get older, in fact, the sooner you grasp this, I think the better off you're going to be, is life and your resources are not endless. You're going to have to pick and choose between priorities, likes, dislikes. This isn't always financial, right? Family, friends, desires, etc. And we've experienced in our professional life, the sooner that we can be a part of helping people come to those conclusions, what's most important and where do I start? In the long run, it will drastically improve your overall financial well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would start with a question. Why is it so difficult for us as human beings to not be able to, I guess, pick our preferences, if I could say it that way?
Well, I mean, that's a tough
Too
question.
deep and philosophical.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it's funny because all of these things sound like they're so philosophical, but they're not philosophical. They may not be, they're not tacit. You can't touch them necessarily. They're not like, we've made this point before about numbers and soft, hard factors. Just if we're talking about something that isn't so tangible that you can touch or whatever, it's labeled as philosophical, which I think sometimes is to try to deride it as like frivolous, when I think it is the question. This is the thing that you need to be thinking about. It's not necessarily all quantitative factors. It's qualitative things. There is no, I really wish I could tell you the person's name, but there was a study where, and they've done this multiple times, you have two sides of your brain. They've done studies where people have been, their hemispheres have been split and they're super rational and everything they do is super rational, but they're unable to make decisions because all they think is in rational terms. There's none of that flavor or kind of value magic to help you make a decision between competing goals. There's no, I can't even, so if it's goal A and goal B, I don't even know what that would be. But let's say that there's goal A and goal B. Both of them have trade-offs. Both of them have pros and cons. It's not going to be, most things are not going to be cut and dry. A is better than B, or B is better than A on all just quantitative rational factors. There's going to be some personal value that comes into play. A may be better for somebody and B may be better for somebody else. It depends on your values. So this is a long way of saying I don't think it's philosophical at all. It's not tangible. You can't touch it, but it's how you make decisions and how you make progress going forward is by focusing on those qualitative things. So why is it hard to do that? I think it's because we spend very little time focusing on what things really matter to us and what are our values. And if I had to choose between A and B, what am I going to fall back to? And usually what you're going to fall back to is normally, what does everybody else do? Well, that's what I'll do because I don't want to go out on a limb, because if I do something odd meaning different than somebody else, then maybe that's wrong, because if it was right, wouldn't somebody else be doing it? And that's just how we learn things. We've talked about this in other videos, copying people and using people as models to go after and kind of consciously choosing those things. So it's difficult just because it's hard work.
It is.
Somebody said the other day, we were talking about soft factors, hard factors. They said, I hate calling them soft factors because they're not soft. They're very difficult.
Exactly.
It's the hardest thing to do, which I thought was a great point, because it's very true. It's very difficult. There's no roadmap because there's only one you, and you can't just copy somebody else.
No doubt about it. I was thinking of an example when you were going through that, and I swear I read this somewhere, so whoever wrote it, thank you. I wish I could remember your name, but they use the comparison as, if you say that family and friends are super important to me, and so is my religion. That's great that you now know you have two things that are highly important to you. But what if your best friend's bachelor party falls on a religious holiday. What do you do?
Yes.
Can you go? Do you skip it? You have to choose between probably one or the other. And I just thought, I read that, I'm like, man, that's right. That would pose some sort of dilemma.
Yeah.
And you'd have to trade one for the other, assuming in that scenario you can't do both at the same time.
Yes. And if you didn't know that stuff ahead of time, like if you hadn't done any work on, organizing and ordering your values, like family comes before friends, let's say, or family comes before social life or whatever, there is going to be social pressure to do the other thing. And if you haven't ordered those things, you'll kind of just move with the crowd because you're just going to follow what everybody else is doing because you haven't done it. And the decision to say, no, I'm not going to do this thing because this is more important to me, a lot of times is difficult. It's going to be hard. It's because it is going to be sometimes out of the status quo kind of group, what everybody else wants to do. And it's difficult to do that sometimes. It makes it easier had you done the work to figure out, well, I'm doing this because this is important to me. And I value that. I think that's cool. But, this stuff is more important to me. And I'm not going to choose that over this because I've told myself that this is more important. So this all gets wrapped up in the trade-offs thing is just the sooner you realize there are trade-offs, and you're always making trade-offs. If you do A, you're not doing B. Then there's no right or wrong per se. Obviously, murdering somebody, not murdering somebody is a pretty easy decision to make. But most things are not that. Most things are very gray as to what's better than the other. And it takes some effort, and you're always going to be regretting or thinking, well, what if I would have done this other thing? That's just the natural way that things are.
I think this is
just it. There's much way to get around that.
Exactly why we said earlier that mastering this can help elevate your financial life. Because put this example into context. Let's say you have established your values and your priorities, and you've ranked them. You know what's most important, and you said this earlier. You get a raise, right? So now I'm making an extra $300 a month, whatever. It doesn't matter the dollar amount, but I'm making more, unplanned for, new money. In experience, in watching others, in life, the tendency without some sort of ranking system of priorities and preferences, that $300 is probably going somewhere that is not at the top of the priority. If you don't have direction, maybe I should, buy something new that only costs $200 a month. Maybe I should spend it. Do I save some of it? So that's where the trade-off part, if mastered, can help you make the right decision and feel really good about it. So you look back and say, man, I am maximizing this extra $300 a month that I'm getting.
Yes. Or, I gave up A to do B, and I know I missed out on something. To your bachelor party religious holiday example. If I choose, it doesn't even matter. There's no right or wrong. If it's, no, I want to go on this thing because I value my relationships with my friends more than I value my religion, let's say. There's not really a right or wrong to that. You would just have to say, obviously, I've missed out on this other thing, but I'm okay with that because I've done the introspective work of figuring out which is more valuable to me, and that's what I've chosen. I don't know that that's right or wrong, but that's what I've decided, and I'm comfortable with that, and that will help you make a decision. Versus, you come into situations where you have to make a trade-off. There is some back and forth, and you've never really thought about which one you value more. It's a tough decision to make in the moment.
No doubt.
What do I do? And you'll a lot of times experience that as an anxiety. I know I'm not positive if I should be doing this. I'm not sure how to make this decision because should I be doing this or should I be doing that? But when you're the emotional throes of figuring some of these things out, that's just not the time to be figuring it out. For example, buying a new car that's probably outside of your budget. It's very expensive. And you realize, maybe I'm pushing this a little bit, but I don't know what I'm giving up. I haven't really organized my values quite enough. I haven't done a ton of planning. So now I'm stuck. I really want to do this, but there's part of me that feels like I'm missing out on something that's not a good decision, but I don't know. I have a knot in my stomach. I don't know what to do. because now you're in the middle of a decision that takes knowing those things, and you can't make that decision, and it makes it very difficult. So it's a difficult skill, but it's something I think that you can learn, and it is, I would say it's a mature adult way to manage your money and your finances and just in general. But it's not something that's easy, and it does take a little bit of time, and you're not going to be right all the time.
No, exactly. And practice. The more you can go through the mental exercises of these things and start to thinking of the trade-offs, A versus B, and where am I going to get the most satisfaction? Which one sits with the values at my core that are most important to me, and go in that direction, probably fighting some uncomfortable tendencies or going against the norm. You do those over and over and over, and at some point you kind of get to a point where you're like, this is just what I'm doing. I'm making decisions, and it's going to reap rewards, in our opinion.
Absolutely. It definitely reap rewards. Maybe not in the short run. You may encounter some, difficulties in the short run, some uncomfortableness in the short run. But in the longer run, living according to your values and the order that you have them in, I think you'll just be more fulfilled if you do that. That doesn't mean it'll always be easy choices, but I think in the long run you'll end up doing better. I just think in a general sense it makes everything better. We had a video, this is like months ago, about how to be a better investor, and like the gist of the video was basically, get it together. Like, as long as you have all these other things together and these qualitative things set up, and you're clear on your values, and you know where you're going, and you have a plan in place, and you're very clear on this stuff, you'll be a better investor, just because you won't be so tied to your investments just going crazy all the time to bail you out of having to do any work when it comes to making decisions. If I make $1 trillion, well, then I don't have to make trade-offs because I have $1 trillion. But that's just a very naive way to think. It's like, no matter what, there's going to be limitations. We use the example of Bill Gates all the time, that the guy has billions of dollars. You could Elon Musk now if you want. Elon Musk has billions and billions of dollars, richest guy in the world. Dude is trying to go to Mars and put people on Mars. Like, he clearly has trade-offs. Bigger trade-offs, certainly. There's definitely trade-offs. He's giving up something to do that, and he has a bigger goal that he's kind of focused on. So I think that goes all the way down to regular old people like us.
Great way to end on it. If you liked what you saw, visit us on our YouTube channel, Avid Planning. Like it, make a comment, reach out to us if you have any questions. We like to send these around topics of interest, so let us know. We'd be happy to do a chat on something. Good to see you, Jack.